This episode is brought to you by Kangaroo Education Foundation. Hello, Namaste, and welcome to Core Venture Presents Tech Tech with Madhab. This is Madhab. Today we have a very special guest, my brother Geshan Manandhar, who is a software engineer with more than 15 years of experience and also working as a senior software engineer at Simply Wall Street here in Australia. Please allow me to welcome him on the show. Welcome, Dai. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
How was your week, Dai?
It was pretty normal, nothing out of the ordinary. It was pretty fine. And thank you for inviting me for this. I guess it would be helpful to people who would listen to this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for coming here too. To begin with, can you please share us why you chose your career in software development?
Yeah, so I was interested in programming pretty early. The first website I made was probably in 1999, 2000, something like that. From that time itself, I was interested in programming. And then when I did my plus two, yeah, it was called plus two back then, I took C and C++ courses, and that made me even more interested in programming. And after that, I did my bachelor's in information management, also from Nepal, which was a lot more focused on programming. So I kind of knew even before starting my batch that I would do something in the field of programming and or web development. So it was kind of a both way. I chose the field, and the field also chose me in some point in time. And then from my first job, I learned a lot of things. And then from my second job, it taught me even more things, and the field was very interesting to me. So that's how, if you say, I landed into software development and web development.
Wow, interesting. Since we are focusing on the growing our community in IT industry here in Australia, so I'd like to mostly focus on how one can secure a job in IT, like for our show today. So as a senior software engineer, what do you look for the most of the candidate? That need they should have those qualities to get a job.
Nice. So yeah, as a senior software engineer and as a lead software engineer, I have possibly taken 40, 50 interviews in the
Yeah.
past 3 or 4 years. Uh, well, that's one aspect of it. But if I think of it, getting an interview would be still a bit further for people a bit junior, I would say, because of multiple reasons. For instance, visa being one.
Yeah.
So, as a senior software engineer, if someone would ask me what would I look into a candidate, of course, technical proficiency. Someone needs to be technically sound. Someone who is being interviewed or who is a potential candidate needs to know the skills of the trade, know the technical things, know that particular language and framework. But having said that, depending upon the company, if you are very strong in your basics, that's much more helpful than really or just knowing one particular language or framework.
Mhm.
For instance, if you are really good with core software engineering and computer science concepts, that's gonna take you much more further than saying you're a PHP developer or a
Yeah, yeah,
Python developer, or even like a, I don't know, like a Laravel developer or just a React developer. So I think that is one thing that I, as a senior software engineer, would look into things that. So yeah, technically boiling it down, be strong in your basics,
yeah.
learn the things that is needed. Google T-shaped engineer, what that is, and then try to become a T-shaped engineer, even if you're just starting.
Yeah.
Those are like the technical parts of it. Now, from a people skill part of it, I don't call it soft skills. I generally call it people skills. From people skills part of it, what I would say is be someone who is very easy to work with. Don't be a problem creator, basically. And yeah, be someone who is easy to work with, and that shows in like easily in the first or the second interview as well. And if you're going for an interview, I would say research the company, like ask questions about the company. For instance, you could ask something like, what is your learning and development plan? If I have to go to a conference, will the company sponsor me? If I want to do a training, will it be covered by the company expenses? And these are very growth mindset questions.
Hmm.
At the end of it, you are learning something, you are building your skill, but in turn, the company is also getting benefit from it. So the
Yep.
company should be able to invest in that,
Exactly.
right? So I think these are the types of questions I would expect out of people. Some other things that will help you stand out in interviews would be, for instance, having your own blog,
Yep.
right? Because 90% or 95% of the people on the internet are just consumers. Very less are content producers. So be a content producer. The easiest way is to start a blog, right?
Sure.
And then I would say, like, for juniors or people getting in, there are two or three technologies that is universally needed across all software engineering. Be a data engineer, front end engineer, back end engineer, whatever engineer. You need to learn. You need to know Git, for instance. You need to know Docker, for instance,
Yep.
right? You need to be generally good in CLI. If you can't really run commands and pass parameters in a command, whatever engineer you are, you don't really you can't really cut it. And similarly, something like SQL. How much ever people these days try to
Hmm.
bash relational database, it's still the king, right? So these three or four or five fundamental technologies that can be counted in the hand, you need to know them, and as I said, be strong in the basics,
Yep.
be easy to work with person, don't be a problem creator, and then also learn this fundamental across the board applicable things. I think these would be the major things, and then as well as become some form of a content creator, write blogs, try to contribute in open source projects, and these
Hmm.
things will automatically make your chances higher of getting a job.
Okay, like to add on, why some of the people like who solve the problem in the interview, like with the recruiter things, they are still not hired. What do you think?
Nice.
Like here, useful.
That's a very good question. So I can share this with you later.
Yep.
Maybe you can put it in your show notes.
Yep.
I have done a talk on how to create a resume, and there I talk about the funnel.
Yep.
So once you understand a particular funnel, then it becomes a lot easier for you on why these kinds of things happen. So as I said, maybe someone is very good technically, someone has solved the problem, done like 3 or 4 rounds of interview,
Yep.
but then there is always this thing called job person fit, yeah, where you might not fit the company's goals. For instance,
Yep.
uh, at times there are specific interviews, especially with the engineering manager, where they see, do you align with the company's objectives or goals? For example, at the iconic, like my previous company,
Hmm.
uh, there was a goal called better together, or something, we move forward together kind of things. And
Yep.
then the engineering manager would ask specifically questions, if you can follow that company value while you work. So those types of things you need to research as well. And depending upon the company, they will have their own values,
Yep.
and there might be value related questions as well. And then if you don't align with their values, then you are not a job company, sorry, a person job fit, right? And that's one thing. In terms of technical things, for instance, as I said, I have taken a lot of interviews. If there are two interviewers, what happens is, either immediately after the interview or sometime within a day or two after the interview, there is a debriefing session, right? That's where those interviewers talk to each other and say what they liked and what they didn't like, and these kinds of things about the particular interview, not the person but the interview,
Yep.
right? Because it has to be objective. So in that session, um, even if one of them disagrees, that because of these reasons this person might not be a good fit, even if they solve the problem or whatever, they technically they achieved the task or they solved the task, but because of these reasons this person I might not be fit. That could come up, number one. Number
Hmm.
two is, in those debriefing sessions, like a simple question I would ask to the other person is, what happens if that person, what happens if that candidate joined your team? Will you be happy? Will you be able to balance the person in your team? So if the answer is no there, then also someone might be
Yeah.
rejected. And those kinds of debriefings are written and then they are summarized and then sent back to the recruiter. So whenever you get a no or something out of an interview,
Mhm.
always ask the recruiter to send you feedback on why is it a no, because
Okay.
the good companies will always have a list of things, the reasons that they have rejected you for, and you could use that as a ladder to your next interview, so that you don't repeat those same mistakes. But again, at the end of it, it is a job person fit.
Yep.
So unless that doesn't happen, you're not going to get an offer, even if you pass all the interviews.
Okay. So, like in the recent technology, people will have like done lots of certification, right?
Mhm.
So, what do you think about a company requires for the certification for the most IT jobs? Or
Okay.
would IT certificates benefit like most of the candidates are not? It is just like random things, or it is the needed things at this moment?
Okay. So I might have a bit of a different point of view or take on this, but I'll still let you know my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my stand on this, or my take on this, is basically skill is a lot more valuable and useful to
Yep.
you as well as the company than X certification, right?
Yep. Yep.
Having said that, in some industries it is helpful. For instance, security. I think in security, if you don't really have a couple of certifications, maybe you don't even get into the door, right?
Yep. Yep.
But generally, let's say in software engineering, or if you're a software engineer, and then let's say if I'm interviewing someone who has two or three certifications, but who doesn't have that skill and that experience of actually working for a large software, or has experience of actually designing large,
Mm-hmm.
like, software which is used by, let's say, thousands if not millions of people, and then someone who doesn't have that certification, zero certification, no AWS, no PHP, blah blah
Exactly.
certification, but then has actually worked in a big corporation or a big company which has seen thousands or millions of users. I mean, I would surely gravitate towards the other
Exactly.
person who doesn't have certification but has the skill and the experience. I mean, if you are generally junior and you don't have that experience, which is fine, but you should have that skill. And if the certifications kind of give that extra bump or push for those skills, then it's fine to get it. But again, certifications don't come for free, so you need to spend
Yeah, it costs money. Yep.
time and money to it. Not just money. You actually need to
Yeah.
pass the
Thank you.
exam and everything. So that means it takes your time as well. So do the calculation. It's a trade-off. Do the calculation. If you think it's worth it, do it. But I don't know, rather than a certification, maybe if I was a junior, I would rather take up a very good course. By that I don't mean just a random course lying
Mm.
somewhere in Udemy or anything like that. I don't know, something as good as Epic React, for instance, right? Someone who's taught by someone who was an ex PayPal engineer. So
Mm-hmm.
something like that, where I would need to invest a bit of money and time, but that means that's going to sharpen up my skills, uh, compared to certification. But as I said, this might be contradicting
Mm.
advice. And the thing there is, first look at where you want to go. If it's something that actually where certifications are highly regarded, for instance, I said secure, say like security,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. If you're going into roles like front end engineer, back end engineer, or even DevOps or SRE engineer, yeah. Another area, maybe DevOps or SRE engineer, like an AWS certification could give you that extra leverage. But I don't know, it's like front end engineer, back end engineer, even data engineer. At least in my head, they would be secondary, and
Mm.
it would really depend upon your skill that you can accentuate and show properly in the interview. I think that's a bit more important than just having two or three certifications lining up and putting them up in your LinkedIn page.
Yeah, that's so good. Basically, like we are trying to get lots of the certification and want to include lots of things in our resume nowadays, right? So how like one person, a recent fresh graduate person, can think about to start his new career is like in IT industry?
Hmm, nice. That's a good one. I should have like a post on a blog post on this as well. But um, what I would say is basically have a portfolio. First thing is start with having a portfolio. If you're a software engineer and you want to get into the industry, unless you have like a working URL, you're already below the list of people who already have that portfolio URL. Be it anything, like be it your own portfolio or someone else's small thingy, but make sure that you have it. You know, so once you have that, that is like the main point of getting into the job market. And now, as a person who's has trying to as a fresh graduate who's trying to get into the job market, I think nowadays, at least, which is possible, is do in-person networking. Like 1 or 2 years back, I would not have said that, but nowadays, go to meetup.com, go to your city,
Yeah.
look at what's happening. And I guess I cannot say now because I have not seen it now, but at least towards the second half of 2018 and starting of 2019, I could guarantee that at least there is one event happening in Sydney City, right? In the evening, like almost every other evening at like 5 to 6, or like something that starts at 6 to 7. So there are lots of meetups that used to happen, and I think they are still happening now. In-person networking is very, very important, and especially in Australia, at least in Sydney, that I can say where I've seen it, is in those meetups. For instance, node meetup, or like React meetup. What they do is they have like a 5 or 10 minute time slot where they ask people to come in front and then say that they are open to hire people, and or you can go in and say I am open to like
Job.
getting hired,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
yes, I mean, also because of that, like going to in-person meetups, that's number one. I mean, number one, or even number 0.5 is actually have some like a working URL. Unless you don't have that, you are not in the game. Then going to meetups, right? So in-person networking. The other thing is like leverage recruiters. Maybe you are already getting messages on LinkedIn. If not, go, as I said, I am again referencing the funnel that I have, that I said. So recruiters are of two kinds. One are internal recruiters, and the other one are external recruiters. Internal recruiters, people recruit for their own company. External recruiters place you somewhere in other company, right? External recruiters work on the basis of commission. For instance, if you get, I don't know, like an 80,000 salary, that means if their commission is 5%, they are getting $4,000 when they place you, right? So that's where the higher the salary, the more interest the recruiter has, and that's where juniors are lesser in their interest. That's basic math, right? But still, try to try to find like internal external recruiters and then approach them. The other way to do it, to like reverse do it, is make a list of 5 companies that you want to work for, right? These are my 5, and then try to find out who are the internal recruiters in those companies, right? On LinkedIn, just say, for example, let's say I want to work for Canva. Go to
Yeah.
LinkedIn, type Canva talent, search. You'll find at least 1 or 2 Canva talent acquisition people. Go and add them to your LinkedIn. Start the conversation, right? Just basically don't be very blunt, and the first message you send is, hey, I want a job. Rather than that, like, start the conversation, talk about the things that they're posting or anything, and after 2 or 3 messages, then say, hey, I was looking for a job, I saw this opening on Canva, what would be the better process to do it? Why should you do it? Also because users get ahead of the ATS pipeline, right? Because all of your all of the resumes basically go to auto automated automated software that scans through the CVs. So if you don't, like, a person doesn't really see it, that's where, to get through that, you could go into a recruiter. So uh, as I said, like, number one is in-person networking. Number two is leverage the recruiters. Number three is contribute to open source. That's a very, very important thing that I think a lot of junior, or like a lot of new people, they don't leverage at all. Contributing to open source doesn't mean you need to open like a 10 pager, like a 500 liner pull request. Adding an issue, changing the documentation. Um, I think I once changed like one letter. I just added one letter to a pretty popular project. Was it Nest or something? And they accepted my pull request. So technically, I have contributed to
Yeah.
Next.js, but that was just adding a letter, right? So go in there, have a look at their issues, and then many good open source, or most good open source projects, what they do is they tag it as beginner friendly or first issue friendly or something like that tag, and then those issues are good for you to start. Number three, contribute to open source. That means you would have a very strong GitHub profile. Whenever a potential employer looks at a CV, clicks your GitHub profile and sees, hey, oh, this person has contributed to, I don't know, like Kubernetes. You could even go in and contribute like small things to Kubernetes, if not Go code, right? So things like that. And yeah, as I said, like make a list of companies that you want to go into, and then do a reverse search of their recruiters, and then contact them, right? And I think last but not the least, the fifth would be learn a new thing each month. Yeah. For example, as I said, like 4 or 5 things any software engineer would need it: Docker, Git, CLI, like these things, right?
Yeah, that's it.
I don't like even SSH, for instance, right? Or like tunneling in SSH. Like you would need it. For instance, if you have something running in your local, and then you can do an ngrok and then show it to your client, that's a pretty neat skill, and you don't need to really upload it anywhere. I mean, right, these days a lot of things are free, but if a front-end engineer who applies to a job and can show me something with ngrok
Yeah.
in an interview, I would be pretty impressed, you know. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like 4 or 5 things. I think I can share you that link, and probably you can add it to the
Yeah,
show
yeah.
notes. There is a MIT lecture called Missing Semester for CS Education, and there they have all of these things plus other things that I said. And it's not me, it's MIT. So
Yeah.
it's pretty high quality content, and you can have a look. But yeah, as I said, like 3 or 4 things, everyone needs it in this day and age. If you don't know Git, basically say bye bye to your job. You're not gonna get hired. I mean,
Yeah.
Docker, maybe you can live without it depending upon the company, but if you to go to a generally good scalable company, by that I mean who has millions of customers and a lot of traffic, then Docker and Kubernetes kind of are the norm. Yeah, these are like 4 or 5 things I would say that you would really need to get into the job market.
Um, okay, Dai, what is your suggestion for new developers?
Mhm. um, I think, yeah, these will be like the things that I said would be the general suggestions, even for
Yeah.
fresh grads coming out. But on top of that, some of the other things would be number one would be try to get some extra help. By that I mean, because I don't suppose colleges here, colleges in back in Nepal, and or colleges even in Europe or other parts of the world, they don't make you job ready. Let's
No, no.
let's put it that way, right?
Yeah,
Be it a
that's
bachelor's course or a master course, they don't make you job ready. So think of things that you need to learn to get job ready. For that, maybe do you need a mentor? Like I kind of do mentoring on the sides to some people. Maybe you just need a mentor, and then you already have that time and experience and that effort that you can pull it. Or maybe you might need to join a full on boot camp,
oh,
right?
yeah.
And then get like that experience. I don't know, I'm not supporting any like paying more money for anything, but at least think of it. If your goal is to actually become software engineer, and you haven't been able to rack a job, then yes, these things. And the other thing is like having a so some of the things that you need to understand is, what is the purpose of the CV? One line answer is to get you the first interview.
Yep.
Unless you don't understand this and you start making, I don't know, like a 10 pager CV, or sorry, not a 10 page, like at least a 5 pager CV for a junior engineer, which I've seen happen. That doesn't make sense. I have
Yeah.
15 years of work experience in the industry, and my CV is 1 page. Okay, leave me. I have seen CV of Mark Zuckerberg. Of course, he has not made it, but it has been fit into one page.
One page.
So if like Mark Zuckerberg or Marissa Mayer, the CEO of Yahoo's CV, can be fit into 1 page, a junior or a mid-level engineer
Right.
CV can surely be fit into 1 page. That's the point, right? So first understand these kinds of things. First understand the funnel, and then approach it methodically. Than just saying, "Hey, I applied to 20 places, no one called me." Yeah, no one called you because your CV is 3 pages, and it says you have worked in, I don't know, like McDonald's, or I have full respect to all of the work in that people do. But let's say if you're applying for a software engineer and your CV says you have worked in McDonald's for the past 6 months, I don't know. As a hiring manager, I I would not call you, right? So making the
Exactly.
CV and making the CV, make sure that it goes through the path that you get that call, that you get that initial call and that first technical interview is how you need to think and then act upon, act upon it, right? So yeah, get a mentor or a get into a boot camp, get a very good CV. So these are the things, and all the things that I said above would help you. I mean, look, getting a mentor would be pretty important, because you are still navigating very new waters and you don't know what's happening. So someone who has already done it, and even better if someone who has gone through your situation.
Hmm.
For instance, I have not been a student here and then transitioned into full-time work, but if someone who has done that,
Yep.
try to find that, and then try to, I mean, people are time poor, but people are pretty helpful. So they would, I think, specialists who has gone through whatever they have gone through, I think they would be generally open to help.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do these kinds of things on top of the 4 or 5 things that I've already said,
Yep.
I guess it would be good for you. I'm just trying to think if there is something else to add. Oh yeah, some other things would be like, don't get disheartened. I have seen people apply to 50, 80 places and then get calls from 3 places, and then made the CV better, applied to 10 places, get calls from 5 places, interviewed in 3 places, and then got an offer from one place, right? So don't get disheartened. Like, this is not an easy process, and then
Yep.
it takes its own time. It is difficult, but the silver lining is only getting the first job is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting through the first door is difficult. I have seen people who have got into the door, got their first job, stayed there for a year, and then got into their second job and got a six-figure salary.
Wow.
And I'm not joking. um, yeah, getting inside a company is the most difficult part. Good companies, what they do is, I have seen a product, like a software engineer, go into product management. I have seen a software engineer go into SRE.
Hmm.
So depending on the company, internal vacancies are there, and it would be easier and cheaper for them to not advertise the placement and
Outside.
then get someone internally, right? So if even if your interest is, let's say, product management, or maybe you are not you maybe you are good in coding, but you don't regard yourself as that good in coding, get into some place, be there 6 months, 1 year, be a software engineer. Let's say if they have a product or a junior product manager vacancy, apply for it. I mean, try your luck,
Yeah.
because you're not going to lose anything, because you already have a job. So you,
Yep.
you 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 have some stable income. And if you do that, so yeah, those two things are also important. Getting in is the most difficult, getting the first job is the most difficult. And don't rule out the possibility of interdepartment movement within the company, because good companies are open to that. Even, I mean, some of them even promote that, but good companies are generally open to that. So keep these things in mind, and I think, yeah, like, these things would help you as a new developer or someone who has just passed out.
Um, okay, all right, guys. I would like to thank you for joining us and sharing your experience with us. It really means a lot for us and our community. I believe your story and experience will for sure help our community to grow. And as well as we wish you a very good and bright future ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. To wrap up, I mean, I am generally open. I'm not on all those other social medias. I'm only on one thing, that's
Yeah.
LinkedIn. So if you need help, like, ping me or send me an email. Uh, and I, as far as I can help you with the process and or CV. I can't promise replies to every message that I get, but yeah, like, yes, as far as I can, yeah, I can help you navigate the waters a bit, so that, yeah, you can go in and crack your first tech job.
All right, guys. This is it for this show. Keep connected. We'll try to upload a video every fortnightly. Stay safe. Take care. This episode is brought to you by Kangaroo Education Foundation.